I'll tell you what's probably not a lot of fun: getting the absolute shit chopped out of you repeatedly, or getting DDT'd by Gangrel, in which I reached out to you for making a finisher story for a feature that I did for him. You got hoisted up by Goldberg in a jackhammer. Now you have trained as a wrestler for a couple months, so you do have a general understanding of this stuff. And truly, unless you've trained, it's hard to grasp how important that is. Are there any that I've missed? Are there any other moves that you've taken outside of those three that I missed?
I gave a rock bottom at an
Oh,
independent wrestling show in
yes, you
Cleveland.
did.
Yeah.
Who'd you
I
give
took a
that to?
chair
Do you
shot.
remember?
What's that?
Do you remember who you gave it to?
I gave it to Nikki Valentino.
Okay.
It was a match between Nikki Valentino and Josh Prohibition.
That's that's why I remembered the match. Josh Prohibition. I interviewed him.
He's great. Both of those guys are great. So I was a ring announcer for Prime Wrestling, and I was sitting ringside, and Nikki Valentino came. And this is what's crazy. I can even say this out loud. I was the ring announcer for their main event, and it was Johnny Gargano versus Jimmy Jacobs in the main event. This is
Amazing.
2013, right? So I'm sitting ringside, and Nikki Valentino was Jimmy Jacobs' like lackey at the time.
Yeah.
And he wanted to help Jimmy win this match, so he comes over and grabs the chair that I was sitting on. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you can't have this chair. And we're fighting over the chair. He ends up throwing it at my head, so I take a chair shot. And then it led to this like year-long buildup of Nikki Valentino went on a losing streak and blamed it all on me. And blamed it all on that moment. And wanted to have a match with me. And I'm like, I'm not going to give you this. I'm not going to have a match with you. You don't deserve a match with me. But I'm going to give you a match with somebody who I'd like to call a friend. Someone who's very close to me. And it was Josh Prohibition's return after several years of not wrestling. And then at the end of the match, I give the rock bottom to Nikki Valentino. But yesterday, when I interviewed Jay White at the New Japan Dojo in Los Angeles, they have the ring there.
Oh.
And I'm like, would it be okay if I got in? Because I can't be near a ring now. And you know this from training. You just want to kind of just want to feel the
always want to do something. I want to buy a ring so bad.
Well,
I know I'll get into it once every 2 or 3 weeks, but I'm like, I just want it.
Did you fully train?
Yeah.
Like, you've had matches, right?
Yeah. I've had about 50, 60 matches, I think.
Oh, that's a lot.
I've scrubbed most of them from the internet, but I don't work a lot anymore. I haven't worked since before the pandemic, and then when I did, it was under a mask and like maybe 3 people. The person I was working, the promoter, and one person close to me knew what those were, and only one of them's online, and I got some positive interaction. So one day I'll like put that out there and do something with it. But once you get in a ring, if you like it, you have to do something. Like you train, you take a move, you do something.
Yesterday at the dojo, I ran the ropes. I took a bump, and then Jay White was standing across from the ring. I'm like, let's lock it up. He's like, you know how to lock up? I'm like, yeah. So I've done that a few times. I remember I told Jeff Hardy 10 years ago during our interview that I trained at one point in time. At the end of the interview, he goes, well, let's lock it up. And we were standing in front of a chain link fence, and I'm like, does he mean like lock up the fence? He's like, no, like, let's lock it up. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Then you powered him into the fence.
Yeah, that's
and
funny.
then you were like,
but I've locked up with Christopher Daniels after an interview. Jeff Hardy.
He's got a good lockup too.
Damn right he does. So I don't think I've done, off the top of my head, I think that's it. Those are the moments.
So I came across that clip, I'm pretty sure, when I went to Cleveland and I interviewed Josh Prohibition on the scene. And I grew up as a Josh Prohibition fan because I saw him in Backyard Wrestling, the video game.
Yeah.
Him and
with
Matt Cross. Yes. So I was like, you know what? Let me do my due diligence. Let me research him. Let me type him into YouTube. And he had taken years off because he was a teacher and they didn't want him to wrestle for a long time. Then just casually, they're like, oh yeah, you can wrestle. So I saw that and I was like, oh my God, it's Chris.
That full match is up there. I'm sure it's not my finest work, but that full match is up there.
So when you have asked anybody about this, whether it be Jay White, Gangrel, Breeze, Sean Spears, Goldberg, we see on screen they seem pretty willing to do it and participate. We saw Gangrel's reaction. You okay, man? Like, is there any of that, or do they pretty well know, all right, he seems to be all right with this. He knows what he's doing. He's a big boy.
Well, what you didn't see with Gangrel was we spent 2 hours in there. It was in Gangrel's Wrestling Asylum in Dania Beach, Florida. And I was doing a segment with my co-host, Lynn Martinez, and she was going to learn how to wrestle. So we taught her like how to lock up and how to take a bump, all very quickly. And we put together like a little segment of all that. And it was a ton of fun and the viewers loved it. And then at the end, I said to Gangrel, like, I'm here with you. And I'd known Gangrel for years at that point. I said, I'm here with you. It'd be an honor if I could take your finish. He's like, oh, you think you could? I'm like, oh, yeah, I've taken DDTs before. And I just jumped too high. Like we talked about, when you asked me about it, I just jumped too high on it. And I ended up literally impaling myself on the impaler DDT. It's supposed to be more of a front bump. It's supposed to be more on like your chest. And I bumped and like took it right on my head, like RVD style.
You jump and pancake flat, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I didn't flatten myself out. I just jumped and I was just like a dart going in, like a lawn dart going into the ground.
Let me tell you about one of the most humbling experiences in interacting with a wrestler. So I grew up a big Brood fan, the scary vampires. And then Gangrel is texting me smiley face emojis. He's a big emoji guy.
Best. He is such a kind, nice man.
He is. I had to reach out to him to debunk a rumor that he was dead last year. I said, and I hadn't talked to him in a while, and I said, hey, buddy, don't know if you remember me, Sean Ross Sapp, are you alive? This is pretty important.
Wow.
People think you're dead. And he was like, still fanging and banging, brother.
That's what he does. I will say the Goldberg thing, Goldberg putting me up in the jackhammer was by far the coolest. Because it's not an easy move to pull off.
So there are like those people, like if you're playing basketball against them, football against them, wrestling them, fighting them, like, but when they even get near you, you can sort of feel their athleticism. You know what I mean? Like there are certain people that, like Darius Miller, who went on to be an NBA player. I played pickup against him, and I could feel him rebounding the ball before he left the ground, type of thing. Goldberg's a strong dude. Like when he first hoists you up, like was that in your mind? Like, he might heave me this way, like not even like intending to. Like there's that strength.
I weigh like 185. I knew there was going to be no trouble getting me up. Also, I knew how to take.
Well, that's the thing. He's used to lifting like 250, 260 pound people. He doesn't jackhammer a lot of 185ers.
I know how to take, or at least I think I know how to take a vertical suplex. So it's just a matter of me posting up. But you can hear in the interview, as he's putting me into, he goes, just make sure to keep your legs together. Yeah. And he puts me up and my legs were like spread out. And as he has me up, he goes, put your legs together. And you see them like scissors close during the video.